Hello and welcome to this week's edition of BS with AJ. This week is part 2 of the Walnut Baby Crib build. We're going to be finishing up the head and the footboard in this video. Stick around. Alright, if I don't know if you can see this or not, but I've got 3 lines marked here, and I'm going to explain that to you here in just a second. We went ahead and made our headboard and our footboard bigger than we needed to, and the reason is you always want to make something bigger so you can always cut it down. It's a lot easier to cut down than it is to add to it. So we made it bigger than we needed, and the other reason is because whenever you glue them up, there's a chance that you're not going to line up a flush edge here. As you can see, mine's not exactly flush, so what I did, I took my square here and I lined it up and I came as close to the edge as I could where all the boards here were even. And I went ahead and marked that line. I did the same thing to the other side. Now, I measured between those lines and I need 30 inches is the height that I need on this. So I measured that line and I subtracted it from 30 and divided it into 2 sections to make sure it's even on each side. And then that's when I marked my cut line. Now the third line here, I marked that because I'm going to be using this guide here to use my skill saw with. It's going to make sure that I cut a straight line. It's going to make sure it looks good and even. So I measured from the edge of the guard of the skill saw over to the blade. And that ended up being 1 3/8 on mine. So that's where I'm going to put this guard at. So that way I can cut this line and it be straight and good. Alright, now that we got the height of this cut down to 30 inches, we need to cut the width down. And I need to cut it down to 28 inches. So the way I did this, I found the center of this. I went ahead and measured from each side, found the center, and basically I needed to cut off 8 inches. So I cut 4 inches off of each side. So I measured in 4 inches and 4 inches over here, and I drew my cut lines. I'm going to use the same guide, so I measured over 1 3/8 for my guide to set on there so I could cut it straight. Now the reason I did it on both sides instead of just one is because I got all these different boards here glued together and all of them have different wood grains and everything. If I cut it all off of one side, then there would be one part that would be really short and it just wouldn't look right. So I decided to go ahead and do it from both sides. So there's going to be a short piece on each side so it looks more even. Alright, to fill all the holes that we drilled in our legs to screw the 2 pieces of wood together, we're going to use a plug cutter instead of dowel rod, so that way we can use the same wood and it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb. Alright, now that we have all of our plugs cut, what we're going to do is go ahead and glue them in. So we're going to take some glue, put a little bit on here, put it into place, and drive it in with a wooden mallet. Alright, now what we're going to do is take this Japanese saw, it's real flimsy, and we're going to go ahead and cut through each one of these, make sure they're flush, and then we're going to sand them smooth. Alright, now we're going to use our router table and a 3/16 inch round over bit to round over all the edges on our legs. we're getting ready to put our headboard and our footboard together. So what we've done here, we got them lined up the way we want to. We have this flush with the inside. This is going to be the inside of the bed where the mattress is going to butt up against it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put dowel rods here like we did to put all these boards together. So I came down 1 inch, put a mark, and I come up 2 inches to avoid a screw I had here and put a mark. And then I measured 9 inches in between them. So I've got 4 dowel rods on each side. And now we're going to go ahead and use that jig I showed you how to make in a previous video. And we're going to go ahead and drill it and go ahead and put the dowels in and glue it together. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. As you can see, we got the head and the footboard put together. It's not completely finished yet. We still have to sand it down with 120 and then again with 220. Hope you enjoyed this week's project. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any good ideas for other projects that you'd like to see, leave me a comment and I'll get to it. Consider supporting us on Patreon so we can do bigger and better projects.